Welcome to Epilogue Podcast, the show where we discuss some stuff that happened on a different show ages ago which nobody really cares about anymore.
Hi, I'm Portponky.
And I'm LeBloc.
Today, we're discussing Farscape, Season 2, Episode 12. Look at the Princess, Part 2. I do, I think. Crichton is repeatedly targeted by assassins, forcing him to marry Catrella and become a statue.
How did you find the continuation of this?
I have mixed feelings on this episode, but it does feature one of my favorite scenes of the show. So overall, I'm cool with it.
Is it when John goes nuts?
Yes.
Yeah, it's a good scene, and there are other bits in here that I like a lot, but overall, it's an unsatisfying episode. So, yeah, I have mixed feelings too. Overall, I don't think it's very good, but it's punctuated with really great moments.
In terms of plot, almost nothing happens. At the end of the previous episode, he didn't know what to choose, and then the net result of this episode is he makes a decision. It's probably a surprising decision, because you said he definitely wouldn't become a statue.
Yeah, obviously he's going to come out of it. I didn't consider that he would become a statue and then recover.
That's typical Farscape.
It's good. The obvious choice to make would be, oh, he never becomes a statue and avoids it somehow. So I like that they made him a statue. Obviously, he won't stay that way, but they even went to that point.
They never do the obvious thing. Oh, well, let me rephrase.
Unless they do.
They try not to do the obvious thing on this show. They kind of make a note of thinking about what other shows would do, and then trying not to do that, or trying to make it unique in their own way.
Which means this show has aged really well. We're watching this well past when it aired, and it doesn't feel dated. Story choices like this is a really mild example, but these choices mean it'll age better.
What by having dynamic and exciting storytelling?
Yeah.
That will be well, it sounds flippant, but that is a long-term benefit. Like, a good story will always be a plus.
They could have coasted on having a great cast and making obvious choices. Maybe the show wouldn't have lasted as long, probably, but I'm glad they didn't do the obvious as much as they could avoid it.
Everything gets dated eventually. Even stuff that comes out nowadays that looks fantastic. I'm sure in 100 years people will say, wow, look at that, that's not very believable. Or, well, maybe the graphics are great, but they predicted the future all wrong. But a good story is always going to be good, and a good soundtrack will always be good.
Really quickly, I want to mention I like that in the recap in the beginning of the episode that they included John interrupting the sex between Gianna and Darko. That really didn't need to be in there, but I'm glad it was.
It's important to show how serious John's situation is. I don't know what to say about this episode, really. He survives a bunch of assassination attempts, he goes into space and has a really cool space adventure, and then he becomes a statue. They couldn't decide whether the Look at the Princess episode should be a 2 or 3-parter.
I vote for 2.
It was originally 2, but they had too much stuff. So they expanded it to 3.
2.5.
Yeah, I think it is a 2.5. So half of this episode was just John being annoyed that people keep trying to kill him.
This was stretched out and not for good reasons. It felt like filler. It had me thinking the whole time, why didn't you make this a 2-parter? But you just mentioned it was too full of stuff.
You can't just rush into, hey, become a statue for 80 years. I think it needs John to get his ass pretty severely kicked before he's going to make that choice.
Having Scorpius show up was enough for me. That would convince me I need to be a statue for 80 years.
Well, I don't know if John is as scared of Scorpius as you are. Well, maybe he is, though.
I think he is. We see once again the advanced fidget spinner in Scorpius's head.
Oh, yeah, he's just casually talking whilst his head is being drilled open. So
it plays well how they don't give it any ceremony. He's just chatting away. It's a mundane thing.
did he launch the smoke sphere thing?
Possibly.
Yeah, oh, he must have. Yeah, okay. Because it didn't actually tell you that.
No, they just said it was what are they called? Scarin?
It wasn't Prince Clavor.
But
he said he wouldn't do it against his own sister.
But the guy he's colluding with, they said it was the technology of that people.
I think we had this discussion when we were podcasting Deep Space Nine that if technologies are specific to races, then assassins definitely wouldn't use their own ones.
Yeah, it's so silly when that happens. No one else could possibly use this technology.
This shows why it makes sense that they wouldn't, or because none of them outright say, "Well, it's obviously Scaran tech," because that's so obvious and so stupid. Yeah, Scorpius launched it and then got Rona to rescue them in an effort to get John shuffled off somewhere. So it's kind of clever that they never mentioned that outright. Let's talk about John's space adventure.
He flips through space.
Do you mean flips, like goes insane?
Oh,
Or
I didn't even mean to do that.
Flips head over heels.
I meant literally flipping. But yeah, he does both of those.
He quotes a whole bunch of movies and a lot of other pop culture references. Here's leveraging pop culture references to appear insane. Or maybe he's not appearing insane, maybe he is insane.
No, he is insane.
Well, if you kick someone's ass enough times, eventually they'll kick back.
That's Newton's law.
Newton's ass-kicking law.
Yeah. Less talked about Newton law.
Yeah, he got hit with enough apples, eventually got the axe. Chop that damn tree down. What are your thoughts on this space scene? The whole derelict refueling vessel scene?
I liked it a lot. It's really clever that John figured out, oh, they can't kill me because they need me alive. And so he yells at the guy to kill him, like, knowing he won't do it. And then
maybe kind of hoping that he would, or not hoping that he would, but like if he did, that's probably not the worst thing.
Yeah, there's that darkness to it. He's kind of resigned to his fate. And then he points a gun at his right hand and says, "Kill my sex life." That was a good one.
He throws his own wife into a electrical circuit.
He melts his wife.
R.I.P.
It's okay. She was only in it for the money.
She had quite a little philosophical discussion with him in the transport pod. I quite liked Rona. But she fights like a maniac, running at him. And then Bracker leaves him to die.
Well, the odds are pretty good.
The odds of him dying.
Yeah.
So he leaves him to almost certainly die. If you're going to be pedantic.
Oh, right. He spent all this time not killing John, only to leave him in a situation where he would almost certainly die.
Yeah.
Yeah, not very smart.
He's not prepared to give John the space helmet and leave himself to die. I mean, I don't blame him for this. A lot of people might get angry that he jumped out in deep space and didn't explode or
That's
freeze
not
or
a
go on
thing,
fire.
though.
Hmm?
That's not a thing, though, right?
No, depressurization will cause you to explode,
Oh,
but it depends how quickly you do it. If you opened the side of a spaceship whilst there was pressure in there and there was none outside, it would probably be quite bad. But the thing about that is that you can only depressurize one atmosphere in a spaceship because it's one atmosphere and space is 0. Most depressurization stuff where people would actually be liable to explode would be from deep sea diving, where they're at 10 atmospheres or 8 or something, going to 1 because it's a bigger jump.
so you're saying it's okay he didn't explode?
Well, he was in an airlock anyway, so presumably it sucked the air out at a steady rate. Yeah, he wouldn't explode. It's not an explosion situation. In fact, it's probably quite accurate what happens to him. So when you go in a vacuum, all the oxygen kind of gets taken out your blood, which makes you pass out.
Okay.
It's a bit like the bends from swimming upwards too fast without repressurizing. So there's one person who's ever been exposed to a vacuum, which is a guy who was in a vacuum chamber when he shouldn't have been. He was fine, don't worry. It's not Grimtail. But he passed out after 15 seconds, and it hurt him a lot in the eyes and lungs. But he was okay. There was no permanent damage. The space is probably the same, apart from it's probably very, very cold. Well, no, it is very cold. So, well, kind of. You can't transmit heat. Anyway, if you hyperventilate beforehand, you could probably manage a minute. And he's using the laser gun to propel himself around.
I like that.
It's great because it's cool and sort of scientifically, it's correct. I like also how he got caught in a spin, because he probably wanted to just sort of float in a straight line.
Right.
But he was spinning, which is always a problem. If you've played Kerbal Space Program or anything. And yeah, when you got to the other end, he said, "Ah." And his eyes were all red. I don't know what they did to Bren Browder.
He looked roughed up.
Rubbed onions into his eyes or something. He looked pretty grim. He was in space for 54 seconds.
You counted?
Yeah, because if it was too long, I was going to say he was in space too long. I always count it when they do stuff, like if they're in a falling lift or they have to hold their breath or something. I always time it, because I'm rewatching this for the 3rd time. So I know it's going to happen. I'm a massive nerd.
No.
So that can be today's unit news. 54 seconds time John spent in deep space.
Okay. 54 microns?
54 microns, that's right, yeah.
I have a piece of trivia that I didn't look up, but I'm pretty sure I'm right.
Go for it.
The builder, that's the guy who does Rigel's voice, right?
Well done. How did you know?
I can hear it in his voice. It was actually distracting to me. Every time he's talking and on screen, I was thinking, that's Rigel. That's the guy who does Rigel.
Yeah, it's Jonathan Hardy. Appearing on screen for real. Can you identify the accent he's giving to the builder? It's a Welsh. They're Welsh. They're from Wales.
Okay.
I don't know why the builders are Welsh. It's kind of funny.
While it's cool he gets to be on screen, it was distracting for me, as I said, and I wish he either masked his voice better or they didn't use him.
I had no idea that it was Rigel when I first saw this. I don't know how you noticed that.
He sounds just like Rigel.
I guess he sounds a bit like Rigel.
He has to. It is Rigel.
But he's kind of speaking gently and in a Welsh accent. So
I guess maybe it's just me. Maybe it's not that obvious, and I'm sensitive to that. I don't know.
you got it right, so I trust your judgment. Yeah, so Maya's been shut down. Pilot's ready to peg it.
That was sad. Cuddling with Zan. Not really cuddling, but
I don't really like the builder's logic.
it's very Old Testament God.
Yeah, there are a bit of that leaning. I mean, we're assuming the technology is there to breed a half Leviathan gunship. Surely that could apply to just about any creature.
It doesn't make sense. The builder is responsible for what he built, and if it performs in a way he's not happy with, that's his fault.
Okay, imagine you bought a hairdryer and it adhered to a safety standard. If you then took the casing off and filled it full of razor blades, so it launched razor blades when you turned it on, should the hairdryer manufacturer remove that hairdryer from sale and destroy all of them? Or not even all of them, just like all the ones from the store where you bought that one?
Of course not.
Okay. I think that's why I disagree with it. It's not Moya's fault, and it's not built into Moya. Well, I mean, the thing was built into Moya, the contraceptive shield, but someone took Moya and added their own technology to her and made something weird. That doesn't mean you should get rid of Moya.
It means you should keep to yourself and just voice Rigel.
You really didn't like this whole builder plotline.
Not really. I don't like his choice, and it just dragged on. The choice is I'm here to decommission Moya. That's it. And there are no changes or obstacles or twists in that, and that's the whole thing for the whole episode.
Zan acts kind of childish a lot of the time, which is kind of a cool thing about her. She's super smart in some ways and super immature in other ways. Like she's very
just like a real plant.
Yeah, quick to anger. Is it too obvious that whole builder plotline is simply to get Moya and Zan away doing something?
Yes.
Yeah. So what's your prediction for that plotline?
That Moya falls back to where they are, the rest of the crew.
It falls?
Wait, I don't know where they are right now.
They starburst away. They're off in some cloud somewhere.
Oh, yeah. So that doesn't make any sense. Maybe God will realize he's an idiot and then recommission Moya right before it's too late.
I cannot confirm or disconfirm anything. At the wedding scene at the end, they had the typical, hey, does anyone object to this marriage?
I hate that was in there.
Yeah, I don't like that it was there, although I thought it was quite effectively used, as there were so many characters who had an objection, but no one said anything. It's quite tense in a way.
That's a good point to make. It was good in that way, but I hate how it mirrors the human thing so closely.
They could have done something else where people could object in, like, by, I don't know, a suggestion box or something. It would be obvious that they're going for the same thing.
That would be worse because then they're just avoiding the simplest solution.
Avoiding it can be as bad as not avoiding it. They should just do what they do. And I guess dramatically it worked very well.
At least it has that payoff. It wasn't just, hey, let's do this thing that all weddings do, and then there's no good reason.
Especially when all the rest is changed to be sort of sound alike to human stuff.
Yeah, without hesitation instead of I do.
I mean, whatever. Who cares about weddings in shows? I'm glad it just wasn't that long.
Yeah, it was short, thank goodness.
Then they became statues. It's a really kind of obvious special effect.
What do you mean?
Would you not see how it was done?
Which part?
Like
I don't.
the camera pans round.
Oh, yeah, and it blocks the view.
Yeah.
That pillar. Okay.
Nonetheless, it was quite well done for John because he falls into a really weird stance.
I like that he started out with peace signs and then
He starts
was
out
in
in a
horrible
stupid
pain.
stance and gets into an even worse stance.
I really like that they did that. They could have just made him have a stupid pose, but then they made him be in pain and he has this funky expression.
And they're all really polite about it because it's a royal wedding. They can't really say, "Oh God,
Yeah,
that's awful."
That looks terrible.
We should have sedated him.
A statue of John drooling, passed out.
It would be better. What I like most of all is that that prop exists somewhere. Somewhere out there, there's a statue of John.
Well, you don't know. Well, maybe you do know that the statue survived. That could have been thrown away.
They could have destroyed it. Maybe it gets destroyed in the next episode.
Maybe it gets destroyed in 80 years.
All right, when he's about to come out, the roof just caves in on him.
Yeah, what happens if that statue breaks? Does he...
I guess that would be bad.
Could you just get some statue glue and then put them back together?
I don't know.
I need to know the answer to this. Okay, are those statues displayed outside? Is he going to have a bunch of bird stuff on them?
They'll probably wash the poopies away. No, it's in the royal court, which I presume is indoors. They said they have to preside over everything for 80 cycles, so they
Okay.
learn what's going on, which is actually quite a good system, I think. Bit excessive on a human timescale, but it makes sense. I always find it frustrating when elected officials don't turn up for votes and stuff.
Wait, so he can hear? He would have to, right? If he's going to
I assume
absorb.
so. Otherwise, what's the point?
Yeah.
Yeah, he said that, so they know how everything works. Like, oh, well, I don't know. Or maybe I do. We never really talked about Erin. She was being drag again. I don't really want to blame it on Erin because that sounds unfair. But she seems to be driving the Erin and John angst plotline.
She has to. John has resigned to being a statue that's going to get pooped on. Maybe.
Maybe.
And he already said how he feels. It's on her to express her feelings.
His choice is fairly simple. Yeah, I know he didn't want to become a statue, but he really doesn't want to go have fun with Scorpius. So, yeah, it's not like it's Erin's fault that it's a sad outcome. John is literally stuck here. I said literally because he's a statue.
Yeah, I got it. I was going to do a rock and a hard place joke, but it was so low-hanging fruit. He was already on the ground.
I'm sorry. So what do you want to see in the next episode?
More sex scenes.
Whoa, okay. This show has got very sexy since it landed on the sexiest planet in the world.
Oh, I would like for the statue de-statuifying process to sort of mess up because it's not calibrated for humans. So then John is half statue, half human for a little bit.
God.
I can see that being a lot of fun.
Like it's just his hands or something?
Yeah, and
So
then he can punch
people
people.
really hard.
Or half his face, so then he has half that stupid look on his face the whole time.
So he can survive really strong hits.
Yeah, and then someone tries to punch him in the face and it hurts their hand, and then he says a one-liner from a movie. It would be great.
That sounds entertaining. It possibly sounds slightly inconsistent with the tone of these episodes. But it is Farscape, so you never know what's going to happen next.
He could have a showdown with Scorpius, and then that's how he wins, or escapes, because Scorpius would punch him and it would hurt his hand, because he's half statue.
I don't know if that would hurt Scorpius.
It would annoy him.
Is it possible to hurt Scorpius?
No, he's dead inside.
Imagine if you crushed his hand or something, he'd just get, like, sexually aroused. You know what I mean, though?
That's a stereotype of people who wear full body suits of leather.
Yes, it is. Scorpius always seems aroused, though.
Existence is arousing for Scorpius.
I don't know if it's existence or just imposing his existence on others.
There you go.
He's a guy who's happy to be an abomination. Or at least he didn't dispute it. Do you have a quote from this episode which you would like to share?
Chiana and I are having fantastic sex.
Why did he tell him that?
To make him laugh. Ease the tension.
It worked. It's pretty funny. It's such a strange thing to say.
I loved it. I laughed really hard. There's not as much comedy in this episode as there was in the previous one. So it was a welcome line for me.
I have a quote.
Go for it.
It's, you've come too far to die here.
Who says that?
When John's on the, blowing up ship.
Oh, does he say it to himself?
He hears it.
Oh, I forgot about that.
I just love the line, you've come too far to die here. This line shows up in a few other things, and I always like variants of this. Because I like it when characters don't ever give up, ever. Or at least I like it when characters are in a situation where they should give up, but really don't.
So you must love John.
Well, I liked it when they blew up the moon and everything was screwed for them, but they did it anyway. I like this kind of... I like characters being defiant, not accepting the situation, no matter what the situation is.
No matter how dire.
Yeah. I don't like it when people give up. Well, that's bad in a show. Oh, hey, I guess I'll just sit down and cry. Okay. Sometimes that's appropriate.
But John has faced so much, and he's resilient, despite it all.
What he faced in this episode was pretty severe.
We're casually talking about how he had repeated attempts on his life, and how that's not normal, and how could a person deal with that?
It's a fantasy show in a way. A normal person would, they would just die on the ship. Anyone would die on that ship. But when you're watching a show, it's a fantasy. You don't want it to just be ordinary. You want the characters to keep on fighting until they've got no fight left to fight.
And then they fight some more fight.
Yeah, because it's exciting and fun. And if I want to see people giving up, I would just look at my own life.
Oh.
No, I have a fine life. It's just no one's going to make a show about it. And that's fine. That's why there's shows like Farscape and
so we can give up in real life.
It's escapism. We should escape to the next episode.
You mean watch?
Yeah, I mean watch.
I don't know how to escape that means not watching it.
Okay, whatever. Let's go.
All right.